Hey everybody, it's ScomletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today I'll be playing another premiere draft of Phyrexia, All Will Be One. Without further ado, let's get into the draft. Rare is pretty weak here, it's also multicolored, so it ties us into a two-color pair, not the greatest off the bat. For our uncommons, the Flesh Cutter is a bit slow, but can be powerful. Serum Core Chimera, pretty similar, a bit too slow for the format. Whereas we also have Ossification, a great monocolored 2-mana removal spell that fits well into any white deck, so I'll go for the Ossification here. None of the commons really competing that much with the quality of Ossification, so roll with that to start off the draft. And pack 1, pick 2, a very easy follow-up. Annex Sentry is kind of an Ossification on a stick. This can only exile an artifact or creature with mana value 3 or less, but that is still going to hit a lot of cards in this format because it's quite aggressive. Every deck should be playing multiple 2 and 3 mana cards, if not 1 mana cards as well. So we'll take the Annex Sentry here and roll with that. Nothing else in this pack is too interesting. Anoint is also pretty good removal. It's kind of about it for stuff that would be pack 2 or pack 1 pick 2 worthy. Pack 1 pick 3 now. We've got a Furnace Strider in red as a very good finisher. I do like the Rustvine Cultivator as a 1-drop in green to ramp you up later in the game. Incisor Glider's pretty good in most white decks. It's going to be good in any toxic decks we end up in, which are white, black, and white, green. It's also going to be good in blue-white since it is an artifact creature, and it can be good in white-red with some decent equipment, so it can be pretty good in literally any white deck for different reasons in each deck. So I think we can just take Incisor Glider, stick to white for now, and move on to the next pack. We are drafting Phyrexia All Will Be One today, just for variety's sake. I'm a bit of a variety drafter myself, so after 5 or 6 Innistrad drafts in a row, I wanted to do something a little different, so gonna take a peek back at the Phyrexia format here. Another Incisor Glider is fine. Mirran Bardiche is also pretty good, but it's also a 5-mana card, so you can only really run like 1 or 2 copies. I never want a ton of them, and they tend to go pretty late in the drafts, so I think it's more important to fill up on your decent 1, 2, 3 mana plays first, and then grab the 5 drops later, so I'll just take another Incisor Glider. Again, there's nothing in this pack really pushing me into another color. There's a bunch of just fine cards. For specific decks, like Sawblade Scamp could be fine in red-white, because we'll have a bunch of equipment that are non-creature spells. Fall could be fine in black-white, because we'll want to put some poison counters on our opponent. That's kind of about it, though. Alright, pack 1, pick 5. Pretty easy Indoctrination Attendant here. This is one of my favorite white cards in the format. There are a lot of really fun synergies and combos you can pull off with this. One of them we already have in the deck, which is if we play an Ossification or an Annex Sentry to exile a creature token, like a 1/1 Goblin, a 1/1 Mite, or a 2/2 Rebel, all of those tokens pretty prevalent in the format, then there's going to be nothing tucked away under the Ossification or the Annex Sentry, which means that if we pick it back up with Indoctrination Attendants Enter the Battlefield effect, our opponent will get nothing back, and then we can just recast it again and basically have had 2 removal spells for the price of 1. So a lot of great things you can do with Indoctrination Attendant. That's one of them that's already in their deck. But we also have 4 Mirrodin equipment. We can pick these up with the Attendant, then recast them, get another Rebel token out of them. So that's pretty sweet as well. We could take the Gold Warden's Helm here just to stick to white, but it's one of the most filler kind of 4 Mirrodin equipment, whereas we also have Chimney Rabble in red, which is practically red's best common. Not as good as Hexgold Slash, probably tied with Volt Charge, but this card plays incredibly well in the format. Getting 2 creatures off of 1 card is really nice. 4 mana for a 3/3 and a 1/1. One of them having haste is pretty good in an aggressive format. The Chimney Rabble just performs well above how it looks. Now, there's nothing in whites. We just take a Sylvok Battle Chair, I guess, as the strongest card. Annihilating Glare is also fine, but the Battle Chair is a pretty big finisher. I think it's less replaceable. There's a Barbed Batterfist, pack 1, pick 8. Excellent 2-drop and one of the best 4 Mirrodin equipment, especially at common, to synergize with Indoctrination Attendant. So we'll take that. That's definitely my favorite card in this pack. I think it's the strongest card in the pack, period. Now there's a Volshock Splitter, which works perfectly fine in red-white. In other colors, Testament Bearer is actually a decent value play, because it can trade off well on blocks. It's never going to attack particularly well, but on blocks, you get to choose what you're blocking, so you just don't block a 1/1 with this. Make sure to block, you know, a 2/2, 3/3, 4/4, something like that, and you'll get a good deal out of it. But obviously, we're much heavier into red right now than potentially black. My favorite card here is Surgical Skull Bomb for blue-white. We already have Annex Sentry and Ossification for removal, so I don't think... You know, we're 1 pack in, we already have 2 much better removal spells than Molten Rebuke, so I don't think we'll need to end up playing it by the end, so I'll speculate on a Skull Bomb here. Now I'll take another Volshock Splitter. Not a very big fan of Forge Hammer Centurion, it's just pretty slow to get those oil counters on it, and the 2 toughness is a bit rough for the 3 mana card when its ability isn't that good. You need to have a pretty solid ability to make up for the 2 toughness. Alright, pack 2, pick 1. We've got another Indoctrination Attendant. We've got a Planar Disruption. And that's about it, unless I want to try to splash an off-color 7-drop, which is just not something you want to do in this draft format. It's very aggressive. I'll take a Planar Disruption here. I think I'm just going to make sure I have a lot of great removal. Plus, Indoctrination Attendant tends to go a lot later in most draft pods than cards like Planar Disruption. I think Attendant might be a little stronger in this deck, but it's much more likely to wheel, and we're going to have more opportunities to pick up a card like Attendant than a card like Planar Disruption. And we do want both in the deck. Pack 2, pick 2 now. Not much in here. Charge of the Mites is really just for Toxic. Basilica Shepherd is fine. Still better for Toxic, but it's fine for this deck. I think it's the best card. Gleeful Demolition. Pretty good in traditional draft. Best 2 out of 3. It's a great sideboard tech. It is main deckable in best of 1 because you can blow up your own Barbed Batterfist or something to get 3 1/1s in a worst case scenario position where your opponent doesn't have artifacts. But I still don't love running it there. I'll just take a Basilica Shepherd. Alright, pack 2, pick 3. Grab another Indoctrination Attendant and be pretty happy with it. Free from Flesh would also be fine. But I'm pretty committed right now to white at the very least, so anytime that there's a great white card, I'm just going to slam dunk it. Red is a little bit more debatable. If we get past something really powerful off color, and there's no good white card in the pack, we might move in on something else. But I think we're still almost definitely in red. Wow, now we have a second Planar Disruption or a Kemba Caw Enduring. Both of these would be pretty great. Kemba is going to make our Batterfists, our Volshock Splitters, any of our 4 Mirrodin equipment a little bit stronger because they're going to hit the board with 1 more power and toughness because they're just automatically equipped on a 2/2 token. And then when we move them around later, they're going to be bigger. Plus, we can move them around for free every time we make a cat token. I think Kemba's too fun. I'm going to take Kemba because Kemba's going to be really fun for this deck. Very, very close in power level between Kemba and Planar Disruption, though. It's also a Hazardous Blast, which is nice to have a copy of, but I think Kemba's definitely the most fun and still a very powerful card. Can take an Against All Odds here. Works pretty well in this archetype because we have plenty of just cheap aggressive creatures like Kembas and Incisor Gliders and stuff that might die early in the game. So for 4 mana, usually we're going to reanimate one of those, bring it back onto the board, and flicker one of our equipment or one of our creatures with a good enter the battlefield effect. So it can do some pretty great value things. It's definitely better than Flensing Raptor here. Flensing Raptor would still be okay if I really want to try to get them corrupted with the Incisor Gliders, but in red-white, that's, oh my god, Annex Sentry, Barbed Batterfist, and Indoctrination Attendant. Feeling pretty good about where we're at here. Gotta just take an Annex Sentry though, sadly. I would love both of these other cards. The main competition is Annex Sentry and Barbed Batterfist. I don't think we can use another 4-drop over these right now. Need to grab some cheaper cards, but Annex Sentry is such a ridiculously good 2-for-1 deal. I'm going to take another one of those over the Batterfist. But as I was saying, we don't need to corrupt our opponent for Incisor Gliders to be good in this archetype, because they're already just a nice chunky flyer for only 2 mana, so we can start putting Batterfists on them to hit them with 2/2 flyers, or we can put Volshock Splitters on them to make them 3 power flyers. Really get a lot of evasive damage in that way. Alright, I don't love Orthodoxy Enforcer or Lightbringer in these decks, but if I had to choose either, I would pick the Lightbringer, even though it's likely to get cut. And now we have pretty much nothing. I'll throw an Enforcer in the side. Shrapnel Slinger's a fine filler 2-drop. Gives us main deckable artifact removal. Take that Gleeful Demolition, throw it in the side. And I guess speculate on an Eye of Malcator, although it's pretty unlikely it gets played. Take a 3rd Volshock Splitter before I'll take a 2nd Lightbringer, honestly. The +1/+1 benefit on it is not that massive to pay you off for the pretty bad front half of the card. Just a 3-mana 3/2 Ward 2. It's not very good, because it's going to trade into any 2-drop, and quite often it can even trade into 1-drops in this format. Like if your opponent has Evolving Adaptive, or the 1/1 that dies and deals damage to something. So, just a 3-mana 2-toughness creature, as I said before, needs to have a really good ability to justify it, like a Stinging Hive Master or something like that. I'll definitely take another Ossification here with 2 copies of Indoctrination Attendant to work really well with it. But Swooping Lookout is also a great card for these red-white equipment decks, because it's already just good at blocking 1/1s, like Phyrexian Might tokens, Goblin tokens, stuff like that. But again, gets much better when you start slapping some equipment on it late game. Then it's a pretty ridiculous card. So I'll take Ossification, but I really like both of these 1-mana plays. Swooping Lookout and Cacophony Scamp can both do some pretty great things with some equipment attached to them. Alright. Unfortunate pack for us. The only card that was taken out was the rare, but there's already pretty much nothing we want. The Shepherd, if I want another 5-drop. Scamp, if I want a 1-drop. Neither are premium for this archetype. Got a lot of 4-mana stuff, so that kind of works as like my 5-drops are all the Volshock Splitters here, so I think I'll just take a Scamp. I don't know if it'll end up staying in the deck, but we'll see. Happy to take a Chimney Rabble in terms of power level. In terms of mana curve, it is awkward, but if I treat the Splitters like 5-drops, then I guess it kind of works out a little. Definitely the best card in the pack for red-white. Nothing good here. Well, that's a lie. Evolving Adaptive is very good, but there's nothing we can play. So we'll just probably take a Vanish into Eternity, just in case, but I think I'm doing really well on removal. 3rd Chimney Rabble. Join the party. Ridiculous card. There's a 5-drop Mirrored Bardiche, or there's an Exuberant Fuseling. I think I'd rather get the 1-drop here. 1-mana 1/1 Trample keeps getting bigger as the game progresses, as artifacts or creatures we control die. It'll get +1 counters. Another one of the cards I was talking about that's a 1-drop that could end up trading up into 3/2s really easily. We'll take a Fuseling. Normally I am pretty happy with 1 Bardiche at the top end, but I think I just have the triple Volshock Splitter filling that role. Take another Shrapnel Slinger. Bunch of nothing. Just a rare draft and uncommon. Very happy to play a Cacophony Scamp that did wheel to us. And what else have we got for the remainder of the pack? Probably nothing, because we didn't really have anything in these packs before they wheeled, so I don't know how good red or white cards would just appear out of thin air. Yeah, it's going to be nothing for the rest, but that's okay. We got 25 cards in the main deck here. We have options in the sideboard if we need to swap things around. Definitely have a full deck today. Excellent removal, pretty great curve. Oops, wrong button. I'm liking this deck. Not loving the deck, but I am liking it quite a bit. Definitely got some power going on here. Probably do end up playing this Lightbringer just for more 3-drops. Excellent removal. Some very powerful individual cards like the Annex Sentries and the Kemba. And a lot of 1s and 2s, which is great. Okay, so this is 42 cards if I play 17 lands. I do think I want to play 17 lands in this deck because we have a lot of equip abilities to use later in the game. Yeah, I think I'm just going to cut two 2 creatures here. Triple splitter is probably a bit much. We're probably just cutting off the top end, so cut 1 splitter. One shepherd, maybe? I don't really want to cut... I don't want to cut all the Volshock splitters, because I really like them with the Incisor Gliders. And of course, just putting them on anything small, including a 1/1 Goblin token from a Chimney Rabble, or a 1/1 Phyrexian Might from Attendant is pretty powerful. One of my 3 equipment in the deck. Yeah, if I cut another, I only have 2 equipment in this deck. Yeah, I think I need to keep 2 splitters in. I might even have to cut a Chimney Rabble. I'll have to cut a Shrapnel Slinger. I guess I would still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards at 2 mana or less. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I cut 1 Slinger, is fine. On a boatload, but it's fine. Maybe Against All Odds isn't consistent enough with only 3 equipment with 4 Mirrodin. We have plenty of 1 and 2 mana creatures that are going to be in our graveyard to reanimate with this. But when it comes to flickering something for value, we get a 1/1 off a Chimney Rabble, get a 1/1 off Attendant. Could exile something different with Annex Sentry. Then we have Barbed Batterfist double Volshock Splitter. I guess with 3 Rabble, 2 Attendant, we'll always get something out of the flicker effect, even if it isn't the greatest. Yeah, we'll keep that in. I guess double Attendant, triple Chimney Rabble, double Basilica Shepherd. That's a ton of cards that produce multiple bodies off 1 card to throw equipment onto. The Goblin tokens are definitely better than Mites, but the Attendant's ability to pick something up to our hand is pretty valuable, so I think I am going to cut 1 Chimney Rabble here and just cut one of the creature-producing things and have all these. And then I still have a nice top-end flyer to try to close things out pretty quickly. But then I think that will be the deck. Alright, here we have a look at the final deck we're going to be playing with today. This is a red-white equipment deck again, a red-white aggro deck. The big synergy going on here is a lot of Indoctrination Attendant combos. So as always in Phyrexia, all will be 1. We're on an aggressive strategy with multiple 1-drops, a ton of 2-drops to try to curve out, stay aggressive most games. Tons of cheap removal with 2 copies of Annex Sentry, 2 copies of Ossification, and a copy of Planar Disruption. And then when we hit our higher mana costs, we have cards like Basilica Shepherd and double Chimney Rabble making the board state wide, giving us multiple tokens, and some Volshock Splitters that are going to help buff anything up into being big enough to attack in most board states, which is quite nice. Then we have the 2 Indoctrination Attendant that have tons of great ways to use the card. If we're in a mirror matchup and our opponent makes 2/2 Rebel tokens with their 4 Mirrodin equipment, we get to exile one of their tokens with our 2 copies of Ossification or 2 copies of Annex Sentry, and then pick up one of those with Indoctrination Attendant to replay it, and basically have just drawn an additional removal spell when we play the Indoctrination Attendant, which is super sweet. Also, if we Planar Disruption something weak early game and then we need to put it on something better, we can use the Indoctrination Attendant to do that, same with Ossification and everything else like that. And there's the classic age-old synergy of picking up your 4 Mirrodin equipment and replaying them to get an additional 2/2 Rebel. So a lot of great uses for the Attendant in here, and just a pretty quick deck with some really good removal. So looks like it should be pretty consistent, pretty fast, should be pretty solid for the format. Without further ado, let's get into the gameplay and see how it does. Alright, here we are for game 1. Opponent's on the play. We don't do anything till turn 3, but we do have an Annex Sentry, which is going to shut off whatever their early game play was for a little while. I don't love this hand. We don't have a lot of stuff to do, just a Sentry and a Lightbringer. But it is really borderline, where it's got everything you technically need. It has both of our colors. It has some plays starting on turn 3. But it is not much in the early game, which is kind of a hard sell in the format. Not much of our own power to start attacking in with. I'm going to take a mulligan here. Alright, well, we'll have to keep this one. This one is Pretty equivalent in power level. It gets on the ground faster, but it has less good interaction. Alright, got a turn 1 Cacophony Scamp there. That was a great draw off the top. Combos really well with Shrapnel Slinger. If they play a 1 toughness card and an artifact, okay. If I want, I can Shrapnel Slinger to kill their Batter Fist and the 1/1. Could also just ossify that, but I think I'll offer the Scamp trade for it. That's honestly fine. Okay. Scamp's gonna trade up into the 3/1. Alternatively, a 2/2 if they put the Batter Fist elsewhere. Let's go ahead and drop an Incisor Glider here. Ichor Plate Golem. Can Shrapnel Slinger that. They're on red-black. Do I want to Shrapnel Slinger that pretty badly right now? Or do I want to just keep playing gliders? What could they have that comes with oil counters that would be that much better if it comes with an additional? Some red cards mainly. Most of the, like Charforger doesn't come with any oil counters. Yeah, I'll play an Incisor Glider here. Alright, they're just going to put the Batter Fist on the Golem, send in for 3, take the damage. Alright, now we can go ahead and Shrapnel Slinger the Ichor Plate Golem. I wonder what's in their hand here. Probably a bunch of big plays, which is going to be sketchy. Yep, Resistance Skywarden is the play. Happy to still have an ossification. That is for sure. But I assume they have a bunch of Furnace Striders and stuff in there still, since their best play on turn 4 was just to move a Batter Fist. Does make it seem like they don't have a ton of cards for 4 mana or less. At least a ton of creatures. Maybe they've got some removal they don't really want to use on 1 power creatures. Well, alright. Chimney Rabble it is. Pretty great draw. But, yeah, they play nothing. Turn 5 as well. Alright, bash in. They're down to 8. Don't know what is going on in their hand. Maybe black is a splash. And they don't have one of their main colors. Yeah, Thrill Possibility. Oh, yeah, Thrill Possibility to discard a green card, draw 2. So they're like red-green oil. Oh, I missed lethal. If I Shrapnel Slingered, the Fuseling would have been bigger. Probably doesn't matter, but we'll see. But yeah, I should have done that pre-combat. Cinder Slash Ravager, yeah, it doesn't matter. Alright, that was a loose one, just because of the mislethal there. But I'm definitely a little rusty on the format. Try to remember the Fuseling triggers in the future. Buff up that power, get 1 extra damage in there pre-combat. Alright, we are 1-0 now as we head into Game 2. Here we are for Game 2 on the play, turn 1 Fuseling. If I head in... Here we are for Game 2 on the play. We have a turn 1 Fuseling. Definitely hoping to draw some 2-3 mana plays in the middle here, but having something we can do on turn 1 and having powerful spells to play on turn 4 means I think it is decently keepable. So we know we're going to get the ball rolling, and we know we've got some powerful follow-through later in the game, even if we're not curving out naturally in the hand. We have a lot of 2s, a lot of 2 mana spells in this deck, and 1 mana spells in this deck that we could hit to play on turn 2 or turn 3. Well, we hit land, so that's not going to work out well for us. But it is what it is. We'll just pass turn then. Definitely can't afford to hit too many more lands here. We're at 6 lands already. And we only have 3 spells. We do hit a Cacophony Scamp, which is nice. I think we need to tap out for the Splitter here. Definitely need to get something on the board that works well with the Attendant before we play that. If we play the Splitter first, I can maybe play the Scamp, put the Splitter onto it, and then that Scamp will do 3 damage to 2 different cards whenever I block with it. So we could end up killing their Necrosquito and whatever I block, that kind of thing. If I make a trade there, the Necrosquito is going to get buffed, and then it'll be harder to kill. Yeah, I think I need to set up the Cacophony Scamp as a Necrosquito Assassin. So next turn I can attack in with it. If they block, we trade with whatever they block with and then deal 3 to Necrosquito. If they don't block, then we can sacrifice the Cacophony Scamp to do 3 to Necrosquito. Ruthless Predation. They're going to kill the Cacophony Scamp with that. I can still kill the Necrosquito here, which I think I will. Yeah, that's fine. It's already the trade I wanted to make. Titanic Growth. Okay. So they have to spend 2 removal spells to kill my Cacophony Scamp. Probably still going to get us here, though, because we really don't have follow-through with this hand. Double block the Vorak. They have Steward Necrosquito. Steward can't get in through the Attendant. Yeah, I can't really take 10 and go to 5 right now. There's a Basilica Shepherd. So we can play the Shepherd and put the Splitter onto it. That'll make it so even if they steward up the Necrosquito next turn, we can block their 5/5 Necrosquito with a 5/3 Basilica Shepherd. Venomous Brutalizer, never mind, they just proliferate onto it. Then 2 swings. Okay, I have to put the Splitter onto the Shepherd. Problem here is if I put the Splitter on the Shepherd, they can just steward up the Necrosquito, then all I have is a chump block that I have to take. If I splitter up the Attendant, then they can't attack in with Brutalizer, or it's a trade. Unless I guess they steward the Brutalizer. Yeah, literally either way it blows up in my face. Alright. Well, it's probably going to do it for us. Kept a bit of a risky hand here, needed some stuff to do turn 2, turn 3, did not find anything to fill out the middle of the curve here, and then we just didn't draw any removal for the large flyer. That is going to kill us. So, the lack of hitting more 1 and 2 drops on turn 2 and turn 3 kept us slow enough to not try to just pressure our opponent and try to outrace them. Kind of forcing us into a position where we need to top deck removal or die, and don't top deck removal. Alright, GG. That is 1-1 now as we head into game 3. Well, this is not particularly keepable. We're on the draw at least, but feels much too risky when the most important cards in the hand are both off color. Triple Mountain, 2 white cards. Even if I do immediately hit a plains, that's starting off with a 4-card hand, which is a bit high on mana. And if I don't hit a plains very quickly, then we're going to have a very bad time. We have a 1/1 and then a 4/2 on turn 4. Nothing else. Mulligan that. And keep this one. Get rid of the 5-drop, I think. Well, when the options are getting rid of the 5-drop or a land, like I don't need the land if I don't have the 5-drop, and I don't need the 5-drop if I go down to 2 lands, or I don't want the 5-drop if I go down to 2 lands. So either one of these is pretty awkward. I don't like the look of either of these hands, but these are definitely the cuts. I'll just drop a land here, I think, because I can cast everything else in the hand still, and this way we can't really flood out if we have a Basilic Shepherd in the hand. If I just keep hitting lands every turn, then we know we have a nice big flyer that makes the board state wide later in the game. Okay, playing against green-red. Get in for 1 damage. Slam down the Incisor Glider and pass the turn. Still no plays from our opponent. Turn 3. Nice slow hand from them. Our hand is not that fast to capitalize, though. It does have a lot of 1 and 2 mana plays, but multiple of those are removal spells, so not going to do anything yet. Ooh, we're going to get the combo. Let's do it. So Ossification is going to exile that token. And then when we play Indoctrination Attendant later, it's going to draw us another removal spell, which means we're now starting to potentially go ahead and card advantage. Oil Gorger Troll with no oiled up cards, but it will still gain them some life, give them some time. Disrupt the Troll here. Our draws this game have been 2 3-drops, 3 4-drops, since we kept a 2-lander. It was pretty humorous. We're at 54% of our deck being lands at this point. But you gotta knock that down to 52 because one of our lands is on the bottom. Under no pressure right now, though, so we do have a lot of time to hit these lands. We do hit an Annex Sentry, but I don't even really want to play it right now. If I just keep hitting for 2 a turn and they just keep playing a land every turn, then we are going to win eventually. Just make sure we have a Sentry if they end up drawing any creatures, because I think if they had any, they would have played them already. The Annex Sentry can only hit small creatures from them, but they pretty clearly have 0 creatures whatsoever, so they're completely at the mercy of whatever size creatures they top deck. So it's not like they have a 7-mana creature in their hand that they've been waiting on. They already have 7 mana. Unless they have an 8-mana creature in their deck, then I think they're just waiting to draw into a creature of some kind. And most decks in this format should have plenty of 2 and 3 mana creatures that they could top deck into and we could Annex Sentry. Maybe it's just all removal. It's just all removal and lands. That would be the only thing that really makes sense. Because again, if they had creatures, they would be playing them. Alright. We are hitting like a wildly low amount of mana this game, but I'm kind of into it. Because of how much mana our opponent's hitting, like we're still fine. Bladegraft Aspirant. There we go. There's an Annex Sentry target. Hazardous Blast. Just a Hazard Blast waiting for a 2-for-1. The saddest Hazardous Blast. RIP. Two cards left in their hand now. They did draw into a Batterfist here. Annex Sentry, pretty great against that. We could exile the token, then Indoctrination Attendant back to our hand. Although with an Aspirant on board, might want to just kill that. 61% of our deck are lands now. This is getting very impressive. And it's actually to the point where if I don't hit a land next turn, it's a problem because we've drawn like every 4-mana spell in our deck. Save for one Indoctrination Attendant. We drew our 1/5 drop as well. Let's if I exile their Rebel from Batterfist, they can put that onto the Aspirant, then they attack for 5. I crack back for 2. If I exile the Aspirants and they put the Splitter on the Batterfist, they're also still attacking for 5. And I can't block it anyway. I can't block it either way. So I think I exile the token, so that if I do hit the Attendant mana, we can exile another card with this Annex Sentry. Alright, swing in for 5, we're down to 15. They top decked a 6/5, that's a pretty big deal. Alright, there we go. There is the land. Eventually, we did get there. It's gonna be pretty late. I think I actually have to pick up Ossification now. And we double block Attendant. And then we have to ossify the Sky Scythe Engulfer. Down to 7. Got a 5-power Aspirant. Don't have the mana to do more than one thing here. Yeah, I mean, our safest line at 7 life against a 6-power Trampler is to just kill that. But the Menace creature is getting really threatening as well, where if they have one removal spell, we can't block. I don't think I want to Batterfist anything here, because that opens my creatures up to 3 damage removal. So if they have a Volt Charge, they would then kill one of them and hit me for 5. If they have a Volt Charge, if they ever get in with Aspirant, we're dead, because they can also shoot our face for 3. Yeah, I don't think I'm putting Batterfist anywhere. I think we're passing. Opponent drops a land, moves an equipment to the Oil Gorger Troll. Make the Aspirant higher toughness here. Probably want to start playing a bunch of Chimney Rabbles. so that I have enough blockers. They're at 9 life. I think we start pressuring them to get them killed in basically 2 swings here. Give them less opportunities to draw into something like a Hazardous Blast that would kill us immediately. And that wouldn't even kill us immediately right now. They only have 5 power on board that they can attack with. But we do want to try to close this game out quickly, give them less opportunities to top deck things. And we'll have 3 blockers up after I play Chimney Rabble. And they could have instant speed removal to kill the planar disruption, but looks like they are just going to trade here. So here's the Chimney Rabble post-combat to be safe, and then pass the turn. Forest from our opponent. 6 damage on board. Threatening lethal if I play a Chimney Rabble. I can play a Chimney Rabble and a Kemba, so I can still hold up 2 blockers after doing that, so I will attempt lethal, and we do find lethal there. Scary game there. Definitely one of those games where we see the 2 opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of land draws. Mana Screw versus Mana Flood. And again, I've said it before, and I'll say it pretty much every time. If the game ends up going very long, usually the player who started Mana Screwed can end up turning the corner and winning, because if the game lasted long enough to where they got out of it, then they have just a bunch of extra cards still left in their hand to deploy, whereas the person who's mana flooded is just not going to be able to cast as many spells throughout the game because they played so many lands instead. So, do get pretty lucky there. Here we are for game 5. Opponent is on the play and her hand is mono red. I only have 1 white card in it, so I might not have to mulligan this one. I don't really need the planes for this hand to function, but it's not doing too much. Yeah, I'll keep this. This is fine. Do immediately hit the planes. Nice. Let's get the Scamp in there. Get 1 free point of damage, guaranteed. Playing against blue-white with a Jawbone Duelist. That's actually quite good against her hand. I think to the point where I need to disrupt it. Just a 1 power double striker. Can block and kill Scamp and Fuseling without dying. Trawler Drake, that's spooky. But we will just keep top decking removal. Let's go. And it's removal that curves out well. There's a Flensing Raptor with nobody at its side. Now we just start playing some Volshock Splitters and attacking in with those. Seems like a game plan. Alright, opponent stuck on 3 mana, but Eye of Malcator can scry them into some stuff. Annex Sentry. I think I'm going to keep that in hand. If I hit a 2 mana play, I'll be able to play the Annex Sentry and a 2 mana play in the same turn. And right now, this turn, I can just play another Volshock Splitter, which is fine. I guess I could Annex Sentry the Eye of Malcator. But that doesn't seem necessary. Just play another Volshock Splitter right now. Malcator's Watcher. I think I stay aggressive, probably just take the 4 damage. Rather than trade off. My stomach is quite mad at me. My apologies if you heard that. It's grumbling. Ossification? Oh my god, yeah. And now we can play Annex Sentry plus Ossification in one turn. Clear out all their blockers. Sure. I think I'm more okay with them getting the Surgeon back than them getting the Malcator's Watcher back. So we'll hit the Surgeon with the Annex Sentry. They're down to 8 now. We have 3 damage banked under the Sawblade Scamp. Veil of Assimilation, so they have 1 blocker total. It's looking very winnable here. They block our 4-2, take 1, 2, 3, 4. Cacophony Scamp. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hit them for 6. Yeah, I feel like we're going to want the splitter on the trampler more than anything. Help guarantee that lethal next turn. Even if they have a bunch of blockers, they need a bunch of toughness as well. Land off the top for our opponent might seal the deal. 1 card in hand. They are going to scoop it up, and we are 4-1 now. Breaking even in the run, no matter what, getting 1,400 gems and 3 packs out of the 1,500 gem event. You love to see it. But we're going to try to keep it up here, see how far we can take it today. Alright, here we are on the play. Probably our best hand yet. 1, 2, 3, 4. We get to count all the way up the curve, which can apply a lot of pressure, especially on the play, to our opponent. Opponent does take a mulligan to start it off. And let's get things rolling with a turn 1 Exuberant Fuseling. Opponent is on green. They have a turn 1 Maze Skull Bomb. Hit for 1. Drop the Shrapnel Slinger and pass. Predation Steward on turn 2, so the Fuseling can't get in anymore, but the Slinger certainly can. And it is going to trade off, which will buff the Exuberant Fuseling to a 2-1 Trampler. Very nice stuff. Drop our Leonin Lightbringer and pass the turn. Turn 3 from the green-red deck, they've got another Predation Steward, and this is where the Lightbringer really shows off why I don't love it, because now it's going to trade into their 2-drop. I guess if I attack in with both, Fuseling might trade there, and then the Lightbringer gets to get in for 3. Yeah, let's get the Chimney Rabble. Let's attack with everybody. They're going to cycle that Skull Bomb to draw a card, so we know they're just taking 1 trade on board. Even if Lightbringer trades into Steward, it's not horrific for us, because it will buff the Fuseling up. So yeah, the Lightbringer is going to trade down. But we still hit them down to 14, and we have 7 power worth of creatures on the board. And an Adaptive Spore Singer is the play. 2-2 Vigilance. Probably trades into the Exuberant Fuseling, but the Fuseling tramples over for a bit of damage when that happens, which is a-okay. What I want to do with Attendance here. I could pick up Chimney Rabble and theoretically play it and Glider next turn, get another 1-1. But I think I'm supposed to just pick up a land here, so whatever I draw into next turn is still castable. So we want to hit for 3-4 damage by sending in Fuseling Rabble. Fuseling trades up into Spore Singer, gets extra points of damage, and yeah, this all seems fine. I could attack with everybody and hit for 6 if they choose to kill the Goblin, which is also actually okay with me. Alright, so the Goblin is just going to get us an extra point of damage. And they are down to 9. And yeah, as I said, I think I just need to make the board state wide. Just get a Phyrexian Might here by not picking up the Rabble, so that whatever I draw into, I know I can cast and still have this wide board state. So Atrocity blocks a Tenant. They take 3, 4, 5. Annex Sentry's a little sad here. I put them to 3 life against a pretty wide board of creatures. I think I do that. Sacrifice a Tenant to deal 5. Alright. I'm really bad at math. Sacrifice a Tenant to deal 5, put them to 4, not 3. Venomous Brutalizer. Okay, nothing to block the Incisor Glider. There's another Chimney Rabble. Block both the Chimney Rabbles, take 2 more on the ground. Alright. They are going to scoop them up. We are now 5-1 in the money on the draft. Very happy with how the deck has performed as we head into round number 7. Alright, here we are for game 7. Another good 1, 2, 3, 4 curve. It's almost the exact same curve. There's Chimney Rabble at the top, 1 mana uncommon red creature at the bottom, but last time it was Fuseling on 1. And then it was Shrapnel Slinger on 2 instead of Glider. But it was Lead and Lightbringer turn 3, Chimney Rabble turn 4 again. Mono blue so far from our opponent. They drop down an Ichor Synthesizer and the Scamp is no longer going to get in. Do hit a Batterfist to put on the Glider. Is that better than playing Lightbringer here? I don't think so. 3/2 is pretty good against a 1/3 body. He's actually a pretty good attacker. And then almost definitely playing Chimney Rabble next turn. Playing against blue-black. And they are going to play a Stinging Hive Master. Very good blocker on the ground. That is pretty annoying. I don't really want to play a 3/3 Chimney Rabble into that 3/2 blocker, so what we're going to do here is we're going to play the Batterfist, and we're going to go ahead and cash in the Cacophony Scamp to shock the Hive Master, because the might that it produces can't block. And then that's going to make sure we can get in with Lightbringer as well as potentially Chimney Rabble next turn. And we can also spend all 4 of our mana this way, getting that Batterfist onto our flyer, so we're chipping in for 2 damage every turn until they play something that can block in the sky. And not only do we clear the path and buff our flyer, but we get another 2/2 on the board still, so we're still expanding the board state. 4/1 Testament Bearer. If I go ahead and go for Chimney Rabble here, Chimney Rabble is going to trade into the Testament Bearer. But then the Synthesizer is going to block a 2/2 and they're going to take 5. And we'll have another Goblin on board for later. Feels pretty good to me. Feels worth it. They will draw a card off Testament Bearer, their choice out of the top 4. But they're going to get that regardless. Even blocking weaker creatures. Yeah, I think we got to just rabble it up. Help the rest of our board get through. Sacrifice Rabble for the greater good. Alright, so we hit for 5. They're down to 8. Pick up a card, mill a couple lands. We will pass the turn. Misread Testament Bearer? It's the top 3 cards. Okay, that's weird. 4 mana card, 4 power, 1 toughness. Looks at the top 3, not the top 4. Mesmerizing Dose. They do deal with the Incisor Glider, but I can move the Batterfist around. Could also just Indoctrination Attendant and pick up the Incisor Glider. Is that better than picking up the Batter Fist? Probably getting a flyer instead of a 2-2. I think a 1-3 flyer is more valuable than a 2-2 on the ground right now. They have up for a blue and a black. Anoint. Can't exile the Lightbringer with that. They could have Whisper the Dross, -1/-1, and Proliferate. That would make Synthesizer a 3-3, but that would just be a trade, that's also okay. If they have nothing here, if I attack with everybody, they kill the Goblin, then I put them to 3. I think I do attack with everybody. Sack a Goblin token to hit for 5. If they make that block, okay, they don't, so we hit them down to 4. Then I will play the Attendant, picking up the flyer. Replaying it. And passing the turn with a very wide board state against an opponent at 4 life. Watchful Blister Zoa is just one big creature in the sky. I'm pretty sure that's dead on board. Gotta make sure though. 1, 2, block 1, block 2, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, well over lethal. Sure. Equip something, send it all in. And that should be game. We are now 6-1 as we head into round 8, what could be the final round. Alright, here we are on the play for round 8. We don't do anything till turn 3, but we have a really good 3, 4, 5 here. On the play, it's not as bad to not do anything till turn 3, but we would still prefer to be rolling things out aggressively. Annex Sentry is such a powerful 3, though, that I think I'm still going to keep the hand. But I think our first loss was also keeping a hand like this. I think we lost that game. I don't remember 100%. I do know that we had a hand like this before. Maybe I mulliganed it. Alright, let's drop our 2-mana 2-2. Great draw for us. That makes the hand actually just very reasonable if we're starting with a Slinger. And then curving out from there. Very awkward to see a Shrapnel Slinger from our opponent, because if it was any other 2-mana creature, we would happily Annex Sentry and just keep beating down, but since it was Shrapnel Slinger, they just forced the trade immediately, and we don't get to play Annex Sentry. Alright, let's see if they have the counter unless you pay 2 thing here. Maybe a Volt Charge, X-Gold Slash, something like that. They do not have the counterspell, but they may have the removal for the 2-2 Rebel. Chrome Prowler. Alright, makes sense. Yeah, Serum Core Chimera. Planes off the top, planes off the top. Fingers crossed, one time. If we hit a planes off the top, we're in an incredibly good spot. Okay, if we don't hit a planes off the top, we're still doing okay. I think then play the Scamp since I drew that. And then I ossify the Serum Core Chimera because that is way too big of a deal. If the game progresses here, if they stay alive for a while, that's going to keep shooting my face. Or not shooting my face, shooting my creatures. And keeping them alive, drawing them extra cards, going ahead that way. Another Serum Core Chimera, alright. Not what I want to see. Oh, that's horrendously bad. The 4 toughness is impossible to get through right now. So if they have any spells to go with it, they're going to get the counters and just start popping off. So this gets a counter whenever they play an instant or sorcery. When it has 3 of them, they can remove 1, 2, remove 3 to deal 3 to a creature planeswalker and draw a card. Well, it's draw a card, discard a card, then deal 3 to something if they discard a non-land. They could also just draw the card and not discard anything if they don't want to shoot things. But it just turns like anything they draw into removal spells. Filigree Silex against the double 1-drop. Could exile the Silex, I guess. My options are to exile the Silex or the Axiom Engraver right now. Trade Scamp into Engraver. Sure. No extra ways to deal damage to that Chimera, so we just shoot for 3 to the face. Down to 2 cards in their hand, but they did not play a land last turn, so they're 2 non-land cards. I can't really play Basilica Shepherd against the Silex, or they're just going to kill all the mites. I could still play it. They're going to kill all the mites. I think I'm just going to Annex Sentry this Silex here. Which is kind of awkward. Alternatively, we could have Sentry'd the Engraver so that our Scamp could keep getting in, potentially. Alright, Thrill of Possibility. No other spell to play? Ah, we don't hit any outs here. I was going to say we have a lot of draws we could draw to kill this Chimera before it pops off. Because we have all of our Indoctrination attendants could do it, because we can pick up the Ossification. And then obviously we have a Planar Disruption as well. Alright, things are still okay. Can attack with a 1-3 and a 1-4 now. Then drop Basilica Shepherd. Yeah, now even if they get 1 trigger off Serum Core Chimera, it's not the end of the world. We've got a wide board state now. Okay, Furnace Strider. Not great, but Basilica Shepherd's big enough to attack into the Chimera if I put an equipment on it. Happens if I attack with everybody on the ground. Block 1, 2, 3 damage gets in. Yeah, it's not worth it. Send in Shepherd, that just doesn't get blocked, period. Pass the turn. Alright, well, that is going to be a nightmare. Draw a card off the top 3, get the counter on the Chimera. They can blow up one of our cards with that. And they're about to draw 2 additional cards, because they draw 1 off the Augury and 1 off the Serum Core Chimera. And they are pretty much guaranteed to kill the Basilica Shepherd now. Draw a card. Discard Gataxian Raptor to kill Basilica Shepherd. That's actually not horrific, because Raptor also could have just blocked and killed the Basilica Shepherd. I guess even if they didn't have Serum Core Chimera there, it would have still died. You can't really set up any attacks. Threaten to soon enough. Putting that on the Incisor Glider, and if I draw into anything, like a Batter Fist or anything like that, then it's ready to send in. Yeah, nobody else is getting in. Last turn. We're in a top deck war here against somebody who has a potential card draw engine with the Serum Core Chimera, so it doesn't feel like a super good spot to be in. But we'll see. there's the Batter Fist. Let's see. They have a response to the Batter Fist. If Batter Fist resolves, it could be pretty big here. Because then we can trade Glider into the Chimera and get it out of here. Don't have to worry about that anymore. Could also put a Batter Fist and a Volshock Splitter onto the Rebel token later to have a 5-power creature to attack into the Furnace Strider. Well, that's unfortunate. Alright. They have the Hexgold Slash to kill the Glider. Okay. Yeah, set up a 5-power creature that can attack into a Furnace Strider. That's the turn. Chimney Rabble. Well, very good draw, because now a 5-1 is useless, because it'll trade into a 1-1. Yep, that or Hazardous Blast. Those are the two spells that would be just disastrous to see from our opponent there. Get our own Chimney Rabble. They're at 7 life here, 3 blockers. Could have 6 attackers against 3 blockers. We hit them for 3. But they kill multiple creatures of ours without losing much. Yeah, I think we play Chimney Rabble, and then we gotta just put the Splitter onto that. And then we just trade Chimney Rabbles now. Yeah, we gotta get some stuff out of the way. What are our biggest outs here? What are we trying to do? Kemba would win the game by producing a bunch of 2/2s. Ossification can get there, clearing out the Furnace Strider or the Chimera. Against all odds, gives us another 2/2, reanimates our best creature from grave. 2 copies of Indoctrination Attendant. Give us a wide enough board state to try to kill them by giving us a 3/4, a 1/1 Might, and an additional 2/2 Rebel. We have like a boatload of great draws. Opponent finds the Hazardous Blast though, and that pretty much seals it. Planar Disruption also works. Oh my god. They just had the best turn of all time though. And now none of those cards win. Just needed to find those earlier. There's the Kemba. Too late now. Opponent just had the actual dream turn. Good lord. Another Furnace Strider off the top now. Send in the Serum Core Chimera, play it safe. Get our cat warrior. 5 power creature to attack into a Furnace Strider. There's an Indoctrination Attendant. We are hitting kind of all the cards I wanted to hit. Eight, 9 mana. I can play 4 for Attendant and 5 for Kemba's ability. I don't have the mana to play Attendant, replay one of my equipment, and use Kemba's ability. Probably pick up the Barbed Batterfist then if they Silex up to 2, they're only killing Kemba instead of Kemba and Batterfist. Since I don't have the mana to replay the Batterfist this turn anyway. That's another phenomenal draw. Killer Splitter and the Attendant and Chimera's up to 3 oil. And they've got the 10 oil for Filigree Silex to just kill us. Yep. Well, that was a really unfortunate game. I think we just missed a lot more than our opponent later in the game. We started getting the tools to try to defeat them, but after they already hit like everything to kill us. Just at exactly the wrong time. We are 6-2 now as we head into round 9. Alright, here we are for the final boss, win or lose, the final game of Magic for today. We've got a 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop to start it off, so we are curving out with a removal spell as a backup. Definitely a solid keep here for the final boss. Another Shrapnel Slinger, so if they end up playing a really good artifact, we'll still have a backup removal spell for it. Playing against a Black-White Toxic with a turn 2 Duelist of Deep Faith. It's going to start working to get us corrupted. And Leonin Lightbringer again. Going to show off how big of a deal only having 2 toughness is on your 3-mana creatures. In this format, we just cannot block this Duelist of Deep Faith, period. Why I prefer just like 3-mana 2/3s. The 3-mana 2/3 4 Mirrodin Equipment is a much better card than the 3-mana 3/2 in this format. The Lightbringer. They're both filler, but this is like really bad filler, and the 4 Mirrodin Equipment is like good filler, decent filler. I only have 4 mana worth of cards in my hand, so I'm pretty okay to just pick up a land here. Spread out the board, get more attackers with that Phyrexian Might. Hey, Mondrak. I don't really know what that does. just doubles up their token production. It will still double up their token production even if I planar disruption it, which isn't great, but my only real option here is to planar disruption it because otherwise I don't have any attacks. And we're trying to stay aggressive here. Like, I do not have any more cards to try to play out a long game. We just have a bunch of lands coming up. I've got a 2/2 and 1 removal spell. These cards, yeah, we can't play a long game with these cards. We have to try to keep pressure on our opponent and kill them before they play too much else. Yeah, we're definitely playing the aggro game. So let's disrupt the Mondrak. They can still double up their token production. I think I send in the squad. The Might dies, we at least still deal 6. But they probably trade into Lightbringer at this point. I think the Might's probably just getting us an extra damage in. Oh wow, no blocks. Well, I'm very happy to do that. You kind of have to play the Slinger. So it's easier to threaten lethal next turn. Currently have 1 blocker. We would deal 3, 4, 5, 6. They're definitely going to have at least 1 card to play here. Hopefully it's just like a Mirren Bardiche or something, just 1 creature. And we can just keep the attacks coming. But we'll see. Gonna be the 4/4 Vigilance that blows up one of our cards. Which is rough. Not blocking is still the correct play if that's what it is. Still blows up multiple. Alright, it's not. It is not the 4/4 Vigilance. So that was just like a bold attack. Fair enough. Get some damage in there. They have a Hive Master Dune Mover for blockers. 2 toughness and 1 toughness, so Attendant still attacks in pretty well. Lightbringer does not. Lightbringer trades down, even if I put a Batter Fist on it, because it gets -1 from the Batter Fist. Yeah, I mean, everything still attacks in pretty decently. Send in Attendant, Slinger, Lightbringer, and then play a Batter Fist. Keep that pressure going. Guess I could pre-combat the Batter Fist. But they're already just going to block Lightbringer anyway. And that would just be like, now they definitely block Lightbringer, because it's a 4/2. Actually, it turns into a 5/2, doesn't it? Yeah. If I turn Lightbringer into a 5/2, it's just trading into Dune Mover. Hive Master's going to trade into Slinger or something. I guess it makes it more likely Attendant survives, at least. We're already corrupted, so I don't really think I need to hold anything back on blocks. Should I send the Might in? Trade, take 4? Or trade, reblock, take 5. Yeah, the Might is fine here. It's never really going to be better. Because they can just hold up the Duelist to Deep Faith next turn if they want something that can block a 1/1 without dying. Alright, they're down to 4. They only have 1 blocker. I think I'm going to put a Batter Fist on anything right now. This would make that die to a Whisper of the Dross. This would make that die to I guess they're not in red, so it's not like they have a Volt charge for 3 damage, but still. I'm going to hold off on Batterfist here. Until I know exactly what kind of board I'm going to be attacking into. Oh. That is incredible. Get a 4/4 Vigilance that can attack in and block well, and it blows up our Indoctrination Attendant when it hits the board. Judging by their hand's layout, it was gonna be pretty much impossible to stay uncorrupted in the long run regardless. But that is rough. Alright, probably game. Just don't have enough action here. So close again. Top deck Annex Sentry is phenomenal. Kills one of our tokens, then it'll never come back even if I kill that. It's also another toxic creature. Yeah, it's too little too late. It doesn't get any damage in. Just exiles their Annex Sentry or Phyrexian Might. It's just a 2/3. I guess it gives us one more turn to draw into something that we would not have had otherwise. So, alright. One turn to top deck, but I don't think there are any cards in our deck that are strong enough to change the course of the game now. Alright. Lock there, take 4. That is game. Unfortunate stuff. Really, really close game overall. So, getting corrupted wasn't great, obviously, because then the Vivisection Evangelist could come in pretty hot later in the game. I don't think there's a lot I could do to not be corrupted there, though. I could have attacked less aggressively, held up more blockers to make sure the Duelist can't get in and corrupt us, but they'd be at a much higher life total if I went for that, and I think I was correct in my assumption that I needed to be the beat down there, and I needed to get really aggressive because we just weren't going to have a lot of follow-through later in the game. We just had our early game plays to try to beat down with, and yeah, with the draws that we ended up with there, if I played really defensively and just tried to make sure I was uncorrupted, it would not have panned out. It probably would have worked even worse. So I think I played that one out correctly. We just didn't hit quite enough gas to get there in the end. Really close game regardless, but it is going to be 6-3, no 7-win run for us today, but still a great run for this deck. I think this is one of the more average red-white equipment decks that I've had. The removal is great, the Indoctrination Attendants are phenomenal, but the curve isn't the best, and we don't have any of the bombs in the archetype. We don't have any of the Bladehold War Whips that are the really big reasons to push into the strategy that are tremendously powerful. We just have a lot of the better filler creatures. And yeah, I mean, I guess I have Kemba. Kemba was fantastic, obviously. Kemba's really, really good. But outside of that, just a solid collection of cards here, some great removal. Played out pretty well. 6-3, not bad at all. I will take it. I have drafted this kind of archetype a whole ton, so there's no huge over or underperformers. Everything worked pretty much exactly how it's worked in the past, exactly how I expected it would. The one thing, several of our losses were games where we just ran out of action in the late game and hit a bunch of lands. So maybe the 16 land version is better, even though we have like these big expensive equip costs later in the game potentially. But I did only have the 2 Volshock splitters. But then we also had one game, we did win, but we did have a game where we had like 2 lands on the board on like turn 10. So that could also just be variance in land draws, which absolutely happens. But I think overall it might have been better to go 16 instead of 17. And again, the difference isn't that massive. It would not have completely saved us from flooding out in those potential losses. It just would have given us one more potential non-land draw, which might not have changed the course of any of the games today, but who knows. Overall, I think drafted, built the deck, played pretty decently here, and got a decent result in the end for it. Get a nice 6 and 3, but that is going to end today's video. If you enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you more of these videos in your recommended feeds. If you'd like to hang out with me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.